Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/malicious compliance, where we can read some stories about employees or workers maliciously complying and getting the upper hand. If you enjoy, like and subscribe the video, leave a comment with your thoughts down below. Now let's get started, shall we? For our first story we've got, What Professor Asks For, Professor Gets. I had a hand in this malicious compliance and it was rather nice. First, a little information. Back when I was working as a classroom technician for my local community college, after I graduated, the college had a need for a technical scribe for a blind student. They needed someone who could not only provide direction of what the computer was showing on the screen, that the Dragon software, that's a software that audibly gave cues on what you were doing, was unable to, but also had the technical skills to also know how to work the software that was being used. I fit in perfectly, and so was hired on to do the technical interpreting for the student for the quarter. The professor assigned for the students to create a user interface that did some specific things. Well, the paper that he gave out had a general idea of what the students were to create. To help, but not overly help, I designed the generally GUI, graphical user interface, and then let the student do the brunt of the work that the Dragon functioned for. And I filled in the gaps by verbally cueing him in where he was, and what to do next, because the Dragon wasn't giving any cues. The student then turned in the assignment. The professor asks us to come into his office the next day and says that he knows I did the GUI part, and it was the students' responsibility to do their own interpretation of what was handed out. I was about to explain, but the student grabbed my arm, politely apologized, and said he would do as asked. We leave his office and I ask what's up. He replied, "Can you edit the settings on those laser pointers in the computer lab to print a page of nothing but black?" I said sure. So we do so, and after that black page was printed out, we went back to the professor's office. He said, "Well, that was quick." The student handed over the paper, and the professor was very confused. The student then spoke up. "You said for me to design a GUI based off of what you printed. This is what I saw, so I'm giving you my interpretation of the image that you printed for the class." At that moment, the professor had a light bulb go off in his head, realizing that he required a blind student to give their interpretation of an image he printed for the class. He apologized, said the previous work will be counted, and for future assignments to proceed as we had been. He then said to the student, "Well played." Well, that was indeed well played. On to the next story now, shall we? Prepaid employees can be very expensive. So this happened over 30 years ago when I was 16 in the 1980s. In those days, there were adverts in the press for a record club. This is the actual physical albums, where you could get some albums free by signing up and then get sent 3 a month. After that, you had to pay for a monthly order within 30 days or get charged interest. So I used it for a few months and was okay. But then there was less and less good choices, and I wanted to cancel the subscription. Each month I got the albums. I could return them in prepaid plastic envelopes. But for the first few months I kept the albums, so I had a load of spare, prepaid envelopes, important for later. When the quality of albums went down, I sent them back, but this was becoming a nuisance since it was getting close to when I was due to go to college and move away from home. I contacted the company to cancel the subscription, but that's when they nuked me saying that I agreed to a 36-month rolling contract from each agreed purchase. Waiting 3 years to get rid of this was not an option because I'd need to return every month to my parents to return the albums. I told them I was moving away. They were not interested, thinking they had me, and well, they did. They told me to send anything back that I did not need each month and pay for what I kept, and they would start the ending of my contract from when I stopped buying albums. I made it clear I had stopped. Cue the malicious compliance. I thought about all the things I did not need, that I could send them all back apart from the garbage albums I was being sent each month. My dad did building work on the side of his main job, so we had hardcore and cement in abundance at the back of the house. So I got one of the first plastic prepaid envelopes and filled it with hardcore and wet cement, waiting for it to set. It was almost too heavy for me to carry to the post office. But when I got there, the company had to pay by weight for whatever was in the envelope. So it would have cost a lot. I phoned them 2 weeks after that. I mentioned I had quite a few envelopes, and they wisely decided to cancel my account immediately. If it looks too good to be true, then it is. I learned that at 17. Now on to our next story. Ex-boyfriend told me to freely tell anyone anything about him. So I did. I'm 39, and a few years ago, I was dumped by my ex. I'm usually on good terms with my exes, but that one was a piece of work. He body shamed me. He forced me to do things I hated, and he cheated for half a year, not wanting to break up until we go on 2 trips paid by me. He made a point of telling me in which ways his new girlfriend is better. Smarter and thinner. It was so bad I ended up in a mental ward. Oh, and he told me that no one would believe me anyway. And nobody cares how he treats women, so I'm free to bitch online about it. Okay then, I got better, calmed down, and started the bitching storm. I wrote a don't hire that one post. He has an extremely rare surname. Only ones I know are either his family or a world-famous athlete. It helped me a lot. I wrote how he can't keep a job for more than half a year because he thinks he's smarter than anyone and argues instead of doing what needs to be done. How his references are fake because these are his friends' contacts, not his employers. How he puts a gazillion of courses in his CV to wear the reader out. His CV is 30 pages long, and nobody has time for that. So that they won't catch to how little experience he actually has. How he's sure that sleeping with a business contact could be helpful for business, and that women sometimes need to be beaten up to see light. It's all very true. I had screenshots of chats to prove it. Oh, did you mean that I can tell anyone about our breakup, but not about your professional life? Well, you didn't specify. I'm moderately popular on social media, so a month or so later, an HR contacted me to clarify. Apparently, he applied for a position. Well, I saw to it, and he didn't get it. It happened twice more, but I suppose a lot more HR checking social media just read my post silently. One time, some bikers contacted me for his phone number. He apparently wrote about a girl, a well-known racer who died in a crash, trashing her as a dumb bitch who deserved it. I suppose that phone call didn't end very well. I check on him once every 2 years or so. No career, no family, no girlfriends, and are apparently way smarter than me and run away screaming after half a year tops. I suppose that someone did believe me after all. I'm happily married to a great guy and I'm a bit famous professionally. Stupid, fat, and ugly me. Who would have guessed it? Well, that's wonderful you got your revenge, OP. On to the next story. Food allergy charity doesn't want to pay their bills? Well, enjoy a nutty party. I work in a food catering place which can fulfill allergy-free requests. We have the expertise and care not to include allergic food, either as a hidden ingredient or by accidentally sharing contaminated utensils and pans while cooking. In our experience, the 4 most common allergies are peanuts, tree nuts, eggs, and milk. Cooking meals without these 4 ingredients will usually satisfy everyone at an event. We had a new client, a food allergy advocacy group. They ordered a large catering last month and didn't pay us since. We were out of pocket $2,000 and were considering legal action. This charity had the nerve to place another order with us, but this time it was a smaller one, costing $450. The group asked for the meals to be nut-free, vegan, instead of nut, egg, and milk-free, as this would ensure them a peanut, tree nut, egg, and milk-free event for cheaper, as they would avoid our additional allergy-free preparation fee. This was reckless behavior from the advocacy group, as the party attendees were most likely anaphylactic to milk and eggs. Think deadly peanut allergies, but for dairy, milk, and cheese, and egg products instead. Had we not known they were a food allergy charity, then we would have not taken as much care in ensuring the meals were egg and dairy free, and would have just focused on the nut and free angle instead. There was one important thing the charity forgot. It's now possible to buy dairy, which is made from lab-grown milk, from yeast. The protein is identical to milk, but technically vegan. We cooked all the meals with this lab-grown dairy and loaded it into the van. Upon arriving to the function hall, we informed the charity organizers that the meals had lab-grown dairy in them. The charity owners started blasting off on how it was meant to be dairy-free and how they have people deathly allergic to milk in the event. I simply explained that the order was nut-free and vegan, and since we used lab-grown milk, and that they had failed to pay us the last order, and that this was simply going to be our team's Christmas party if they didn't accept the order. The owner went ballistic and began pushing me. The rest of us restrained him, and the function hall called the police. The owner lied and told the police that we had dropped and assaulted him. The police asked the function hall for CCTV and then moved us both along. The police did inform us at the commotion that we could head down to the station tonight and provide a witness statement should we choose to press charges. A few moments later, the owner called and begged for an apology and offered to pay us both the original and today's invoices right there and then. I decided to take the apology and the cash. Our team had a nice pre-Christmas party with the vegan lab-grown dairy meals. Wow, that's definitely one way of getting it over on the big guy. On to our last story of the day. Ex won't follow divorce rules that she wrote. My ex really wanted right of the first refusal in divorce agreement so she could get extra time with the kids. I couldn't watch them, which is reasonable, but she also wanted it specified that only grandparents and aunts and uncles could watch the kids if she passed off the right of first refusal. She wouldn't admit it, but my lawyer suspected that the reason she wanted to only allow those specific people was to exclude any romantic partner of mine from babysitting ever. The kids' parents would always get first dibs though, so there was no good reason for that bit of it, and honestly a long-term partner is probably going to be better for the kids as a babysitter than my family who is hours away, and some of them aren't the most trustworthy. I agreed to it in the final agreement under the condition that I get a makeup date any time she uses the right of first refusal, to avoid giving her the incentive to just say no every date swap. So fast forward to this weekend, and I asked if she wants the kids under right of first refusal. She says yes, but she won't give me a makeup overnight. Because the right of first refusal requires a makeup, I tell her this counts as rejecting her first refusal. She gets mad and says I should give her the kids anyway. So I say I need to follow the exact wording of the divorce agreement, and it says only grandparents, aunts, and uncles can watch the kids. She didn't put parents in there. So I'm not even legally allowed to let her watch the kids if she's not going to follow the right of first refusal agreement. Oh, that felt sweet to use the stupid rule she created against her attempt to break the agreement. She was mad, but she finally agreed to a makeup overnight in the end, which is the way it should have been in the first place. Edit. I think it's worth adding that I do believe the end state here was best for the kids, which is the goal. Keeping the placement days 50-50 lets the kids keep seeing each parent as much as they can, and they want to see both parents as much as they can. It promotes parental equality from everyone's view. She's generally a good mom to the kids. I'm a good dad. No real concerns there. But she's willing to try and break the divorce agreements that she can get more time with the kids by taking time away that I was supposed to be able to spend with the kids. And that's not fair to the kids or to me, and I am happy that I stopped her from doing that. Well, good on you, OP. That's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed these malicious compliances, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and all that wonderful stuff. I will see you all next time. Hasta la pasta.